working people, bringing us together. The uniqueness to Jobs with Justice is we're not just community organizations, we're not just labor, but we're actually a combination of community and unions coming together to fight for our working class folks. Yeah. So some of the things that we have and are currently working on, Fight for 15, thank you folks, our retail, our restaurant workers, thank you very much for the work that you do, displacement in housing and education amongst some other things, right? So right now we have had this, we came up with this idea because if you haven't been paying attention, some things have been going on in the country around disvaluing the lives of black folks, right? And we have one of our panelists who's the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter doesn't just matter. Get that love at home. You know, it's one of those things that we get caught up, and with, you know, some folks are like, why are we talking about Black Lives Matter? Because actually, folks are devaluing our lives on a regular basis. You know, and it's one of those things that, you know, as a black woman, you know, I'm here to tell you Black Lives Matter every day, all year, every moment, every second. And trying to bring in the conversation of how we actually can have these conversations in the workplace, right? How are we having these conversations when, no matter what field of work we're in? If we're a union rep, if we're in the restaurants, if we're in retail, if we're in schools, if we're a janitor or a security officer, if we're in the nonprofit sector, how are we taking these conversations about what's happening in the country and actually applying it to the regular work that we're doing, right? And so that's really what the forum is going to be tonight. I want to thank you guys again. We're going to get started. I also want to just be clear to make sure that folks know we are doing translation tonight. And our translator, she's in the back. And so for our panelists, just a reminder, you know, it's a skill to be a translator, but they're not musicians. And so slow it down and be concise and pay attention back there. She may have a signal for us back there. So we're going to get started. Starting with Stephen Pitts. Steve Pitts is the Associate Chair of the UC Berkeley Labor Center and earned his PhD in economics at the University of Houston. At the Labor Center, Stephen focuses on issues of job quality and black workers. He has published reports on employment issues in the black community, initiated a black union leadership school, and shaped projects designated to build solidarity between black and Latino immigrant workers. He is a co-founder of the National Black Workers Center project. Stephen?
Hey, how people doing?
Good.
Good. Glad to be here, despite repeating with a game on tonight. I think that the goal for next year is that we can tell the NBA, you cannot have a game on our night. This is indicative of the lack of power we have. Our goal now for next year, enough power to dictate when the playoffs are being set. The Warriors will be there next year also. We should say you can't have a game on our night. Given that, but I am really glad to be here for a lot of reasons. I guess I've been around the block for a couple of times. A friend of mine said she was being kind of freaked out because she's turning 30. So, well, I did that twice already. And so, you know, been incredibly enthused over the activism that's been happening, called kind of the Black Upsurge. Incredibly excited over that. I'm just really excited. And so the idea is really, what does it mean? How do we build on that? You know, as I'm telling Alicia, this is a marathon. You know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so we always have upsurges. And by definition, you go up and you come down. But we go up again. And so the question is, so how do you take this upsurge and you become out of it stronger and more powerful? And so I was told I have 7 minutes, and I've gone through about a million jokes already. But I want to talk a bit about my thoughts on the larger situation itself, and a bit about the National Black Workers Center project also. one thing that's not, I think, well appreciated is that whenever you have an upsurge in black activism that is really deeply felt amongst black folks, there will always be a worker expression of that. Not that it might be, it will always happen. Now, in some ways, the clearest example of that might be coming out of the period of late 60s, early 70s, we had the rise in black power activism. We had along with that, the rise in black caucuses and unions, and the formation of different multi-union black spaces as well. But there are other examples. If you think about the traditional sort of civil rights activism from Montgomery to Selma, where once it gets deeply felt in the black community, you had black unionists being the backbone bringing folk to Washington in 1963. You always have that. And so the question that we got to talk about is not what should be, but what is the current expression of that black worker activism. It will exist. It may not be in the form we see about, or we tweet about, or we read on certain blogs, but it has to be the case. When the movement deeply felt. That's one thing. I think what's important is to do a couple of things. One is to go deep into our institutions, unions, non-unions, and one, talk to black members. How do you feel? Why? Deeply. It could be around police issues, it could be around job issues, a number of things. But the idea of Black Lives Matter is the question, what does it mean to you on the job in the community? It's also important to talk to other folks in the sense that we don't have some sort of colorblind or color-neutral society, but it's very specific. The way that race rolls out, it rolls out to unique to different races. And so we try to say it's simply an attack on people of color, that one is inaccurate, and more equally important, it denies the energy of communities of color. They're unique to their experiences. So it's important to go to other folk and institutions and have them hear those stories. You know, one incredible thing about unions is that compared to most spaces in American society, unions are profoundly democratic with small d. Yeah. In the sense that folks go to get a job and end up in a union. Not like you go to church because you have to share certain beliefs or your kid in school. And so a union is much more heterogeneous than other parts of society. But it means that you have folks from different races who have some interaction. Which means that I'm with folk who are like me normally, but I know they ain't crazy. They know I'm not crazy. And we can begin to have conversations. I would encourage folks to have to create what I call cultures of conversation in unions. We can have honest talk, share stories, and begin to let people know that this issue of race and the issue of attacking on black lives is not some sort of strange phenomena that people talk when they want to throw stones to be thuggish, but it reflects everyday life in black America. But that can't be from resolutions or public stances that come from real, serious, one-on-one conversations with organizing, not mobilizing or organizing. One last thing to go to the National Black Work Center project. Because of the energy around the attacks on black lives, there hasn't been a lot of talk about jobs in this conversation. Which I think is an important thing we got to take care of, because we have a decent sense that underlying some of these problems is this job crisis. But when we don't talk about it in deep ways, then other folk, might be right-wing folk or center folk, they bring forth their solution to the job crisis, which will not work. And so it's very important that we begin to talk about what is a radical jobs agenda in the context of this moment of the black upsurge. Give more later on. But given that, by the way, Ms. Moderator. No, we have time constraints. Okay. I'll go back to the games, by the way. But seriously though, about 4+ years ago, some of us thought that it was important to look at new forms of organizing black workers. That while unions are incredibly important and powerful and must be part of the larger movement for social and economic justice, given the nature of history and current economic situations, we need to think about other forms of organizing. And so we started what's called the National Black Worker Center Project. And the idea is, how can we as a network support the development of these black worker centers in the locales? It's the idea is not to have some sort of national top-down organization where someone gives orders and people march. That won't happen. I kind of wish sometimes we'd have no policy discussions up in Washington, D.C., but we take kind of root ourselves locally in Oakland, in San Francisco, in LA, in Chicago, and so forth, and find ways to address the black job crises in those particular locales and build power locally. And when you build that power locally, you can begin to change the world locally, involve more people, but also I think kind of what's part of behind the idea of being a loose federation is the expression, let a hundred flowers bloom. In other words, in LA, what the LA Black Worker Center is focused on is construction, doing phenomenally good work, both in helping get a good policy as LA Metro rolls out some construction. Also saying we need to enforce that policy as well and ensure that a good pipeline exists. Now, when they lock that idea down, they can then take that now and spread it around the country. So in Chicago, they were involved in a coalition that on a statewide level wanted to expand issues of ban the box. What important thing they're doing there, they've hired a former incarcerated to be involved in the campaign. Once again, how do you do that? It's difficult, it takes effort. They get it down, they lock it down to spread the word. And so the idea, once again, is that not to have some sort of one size fit all, where some sort of mechanical, every city does the same sort of thing. No. It depends on your relationships, depends where you're starting from. The key thing is dig deep roots, and given that, do good work, based in members, and spread the word. And so when Lou was starting out, incredibly excited. About 30 seconds left, so I'll stop early. And look forward to the conference. People, thanks for coming out. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we have great conversations and just want to have fun. This should be fun work, by the way, and also build power to change the world too. So thanks a lot.
Yeah. Is DERRICK BOUTTE, who works at Highland Hospital and has been a union member for over 10 years. He is the Social and Economic Justice Chair at SEIU 10-1. Straight attacks on our public employees, right?
Exactly.
This is leading towards different caucuses within the union, like those for African American union members or LGBTQ union members. He is also an executive board officer and chapter president in Alameda County. Derrick?
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for having me here today. I'd like to thank everybody for actually being here today also, so if we can actually have discussions on these important issues that are in front of us right now. The number one thing that I want to tell you a little bit about is the hospital that I work in. I work at Highland Hospital, which is known in the northern regional Bay Area out here as one of the #1 trauma units out here. And there's no growth in leadership up in here as far as for black people in general. They're always given a part-time job or given a lesser job than actually a part-time job. They're never escalated to be put into leadership positions where they can actually lead and actually find development programs that they can actually put into their communities also. Right now we're dealing with a situation where they actually want to talk about layoffs and letting go members, and it's actually at the lowest level, like dietary workers and housekeeping workers, and it always affects like a paranoid level up in there to know that you're going to be at some point losing your job. So it starts to escalate a fear factor up in there, and it doesn't allow people to actually focus on what their actual work may be at that time. The struggle that we're actually having in there is, like I said, is being able to allow individuals from a black perspective or even from a minority's perspective to grow in leadership roles inside of the hospital, to be able to be counted on for their other peers can see them and say that this is a leader and that we can be able to follow in that aspect and we can grow and be educated and learn from that. The hospital has not came into that format yet. And right now, it's actually depleting the staff and the motivation of the people that actually work up in there. What the local actually does in that behalf is try to make an awareness amongst all of the workers up in there that they have an actual right to fight for the rights that they are involved in, whether it's a contractual right, whether it's a freedom of expression right. And we actually give them a platform to actually stand on and represent themselves as workers in there that needs to have wages that equal actually to what they're actually trying to provide for their families and society. That has been a struggle, but the local has found ways to actually allow individuals to carry themselves on these platforms and talk about these situations that we actually deal with on a consistent basis. We organize up in there, we help educate, and we utilize that process to actually go outside of the working aspect and into the communities. What we want to do is actually develop leaders that actually can go into the communities and fight the rights, whether it's police brutality, low wage and paying jobs, the fight for 15, so many other fights that we're actually involved in right now in the local. Like I said, it gives these workers an actual platform to express themselves when that's not given at the actual workplaces. The jobs that they're given, like I said, are not career jobs. They're just jobs to get by at that time. I'm pretty sure everybody up in here who actually holds a job like that would know that that is not a way that we can actually provide for our families. We're actually looking for cures in that, and what I mean for that is that we're actually taking our work to the outside, working with community activists, working inside of organizations, and working with other locals so we can have a stronger and a louder, productive voice in this aspect. It's going to be plenty more challenges that's going to be actually in front of us, but right now we're actually trying our best to actually lead that cause and fighting for the rights of workers. Okay. So like I said, that the whole aspect that we want to do is we want to uplift individuals that people consider to not have voices. And we want to give them a voice to speak for their rights. Like a lot of these situations, they start from the development of our workers in the process that we work with on a consistent basis every day, but they have direct connections to our communities. They have direct connections to the communities, and they find ways to actually uplift the people in their communities also and talk about things that can be positive changes. A lot of our communities that we live in that's surrounded by that hospital are victimized by low education, low housing, low development in jobs, no education. And our number one thing is to actually bring people out of those communities that are like that, give them the training inside of the union offices and the facilities, and let them come back into the communities and be leaders and champion those situations. So what we actually do is try to most definitely build union crusaders, but they can get out there into these communities and try to most definitely fight and cure these situations that are out there. So we want to find other ways to get more people involved, that are involved in their communities, that want to have a voice, that want to speak out, that want to be a support system to these actual effects that affect us all on a consistent basis. So we're looking for other individuals to actually come out and participate with us, and find ways that we can put together steering committees and coalitions together and figure out ways how we can address these issues head on and not let these issues actually affect us even more and to the point where they affect our futures, affect our youth and our children. Because right now, that's the effects that we're actually going through right now, is that the future that we're looking for to build for is the one that is actually in danger right now. So we want to make sure that our kids are safe in these environments and that they can learn and be educated in these same processes, and know that their parents are working hard and trying to provide for them and trying to find ways to get these activists, these churches involved, and have this whole community be aware. I think that every time I go into certain areas and communities, I always see this sign that say neighborhood watch. Us as a people need to start formulating community watches where we actually elevate each other and educate each other in these stances, where we don't let police brutality come in and not be recognized, and we start putting a stop to that. We start to be educating people enough to where they're able to know who their actual oppositions are, able to know that it's not about vandalizing things or tearing down stuff, because our message does not get out the correct way. We need to actually be able to deliver our message to the actual politicians, the mayors, and the people that actually change these laws and everything, and allow them to know that they're making changes in our lives that affect us without us having to say so in it. So I feel like that is very important, that we start the camaraderie of working together in solidarity with each and every other local and getting out here in these communities and fighting for our rights together.
Thank you. hearing in the back. So we're actually going to have our speakers stand up moving forward, just to make sure that,
No microphone?
well, you know, it's a small room, but we're going to make sure that those folks out there, y'all can come in here and have a seat here. We don't bite, it's all right.
We're all family.
It's all family up in here. I'm loving seeing all the faces. Squeeze in. If you're okay with sitting on the floor, come on and sit a little closer and sit on the floor. My only ask is that if you're coming in, you're not blocking the folks that have been here sitting down in a chair. All right. Thank you for that. And so Derrick was just talking about working with the folks that are homegrown. And so our next speaker, Chris Higginbotham, is an Oakland resident, born and raised. Born and raised. He is also an Oakland teacher and volunteers in the community. Chris currently works part-time at McDonald's and has worked in McDonald's while in college and during breaks for a total of 6 years. He has been an activist and a leader in the fight for 15 and the union. That's what we're doing.
Hope everybody's doing well. I'm actually happy I can stand. As a teacher, I don't like sitting. So, how I got involved with the Fight for 15, I'm with East Bay Organizing Committee. I was at McDonald's, just coming back, graduated. I was super juiced. I was like, yeah, I'm about to be a teacher. I was like, I need my McDonald's job to supplement my work as teaching, but maybe I should let it go if I could be, full-time on the kids. That was the first year. But then a union person that was trying to start a union said, hey, we're trying to start a fast food union. And they was like, do you know about unions? I said, I know all about unions, My mom was in the union, my dad's in the union. I definitely, that's up my street. But then I started realizing that my workers didn't know about a union. They didn't understand what it was. They were scared. And I felt it was just an injustice for me to just walk away from them and not help them. And I think that's the number one thing that we all need to remember. It's an injustice if you walk away from injustice and not speak up upon it. I got actively involved. And then they asked me how I got involved in Black Lives Matter. I've always been part of Black Lives Matter. When I came out the womb, I was part of Black Lives Matter. But my first instance really was Black Lives Matter was when I was 13. I played on AAU team. We went out to Danville. I was always trying to figure out, why we always going out here? They don't never come to Oakland. They don't never come, they don't never come to Hunters Point, San Francisco. We hooped everywhere. We didn't care where it was at, outside, inside. Why we always gotta come out there? Why they got these fancy gyms? Why is all the sponsorships going to them? They can't hoop better than us, to keep it real. And then my coach was like, that's just how life works. And I didn't really get it. So then I got older, and the Oscar Grant happened. So my school is up the street from Fruitville Bar Station. I caught the bar all the way, got from Fruitville and walked. So that really hit me. When I was going out there and seeing, I was like, whoa, what is this? My mom explained to me. She was like, sometimes people don't respect you because of your skin tone. And then I went to Morehouse because I felt like I need to know more about my people, because in the history books, they weren't teaching me. So I went to a black college. When I got to Morehouse, I learned a lot, but then we had the Troy Davis incident, where he was falsely prosecuted for a murder that he did not do. And they did not overturn it, even though witnesses came out and said that they lied. And he was executed. Then it was Trayvon Martin. But let me also bring up, with this Black Lives Matter movement, we need to remember, definitely as black males, we gotta step up and remember the women. If you don't know about that, then please look up the hashtag. Say her name, because right now it's going. You need to hear those stories. I'm not going to tell you about all those stories because you need to read about that. It's more than just black males that have had police brutality. There's also women. The connections between the two is a lot of these are happening in the hoods. You know, Ferguson, Oakland, Baltimore, we just seen. But there's also an issue with the poverty level. Many times they say, hey, these people just need to get a higher degree. I'm going to tell you, I'm a teacher in Oakland. I have kids that have came to me and said, Mr. H, can I talk to you outside? I'm like, all right, cool, what's going on? I didn't get my homework done. I'm like, come on, what happened? My lights were out. Finding out at parent-teacher conference, these people work in food service. Food service is over, make sure I get this correct. Don't want to give you all wrong numbers. It's over 1/3 of the issues in minimum wage, low issues. To be exact, around like 27%. That's the issue, and many of us work in that industry. They tell us to do better, but give us no resources. I'm sorry, I can't help myself if I ain't got no money in my pocket. They tell us crime is high. It's awful. We're shooting each other. But I don't have the resources to open a book to understand about myself, to teach my brother not to shoot another person. All I know is, hey, he got a fresh pair of Jordans. I didn't get that. Oh, this, and we naturally have that hate. But when you go to a school in Danville, my ex-girlfriend in high school went to Monte Vista. And when I found out they had a golf team, I said, a golf team? I said, whoa. I said, wow. I said, she was like, you know about, I said, I know Tiger Woods. I couldn't imagine even having the opportunity to play golf. A tennis team. See, they say, a lot of people understand, they say education is about opening the book. No, that's not true. There's kids educated in drama. There's kids that can be the next Denzel. There's kids that are musicians, but we don't have that. You expect us to go to school from 8 to 3, to come out to the hood where there's no parks and recs open for us. But if you go to Denver, there's parks and recs, nice parks, you can hoop there for free. But we have to pay. And I'm telling you, like $70 to $90. How can you pay $70 to $90 when you can't keep on the lights? This issue is about police brutality. This issue is about low-wage jobs. This issue is about people not stepping up when they know they can talk because they refuse to, because they're like, I don't want to be part of that issue. They ain't got to deal with me. Yes, it does. You're watching it. When you see a murder, you're a witness to that, right? So when you see injustice, you're a witness to that. So you need to testify your story, you need to preach it to somebody else, and you need to bring people together. To wrap this up real quick, what I want everybody to know right now is we have to come together.
Say that again.
We have to come together. And I want to say one more thing. With Black Lives Matter, yes, we make our presence felt in Oakland. We make our presence felt in Ferguson. But remember, the police do not come from Oakland. They do not come from Ferguson. They do not come from Baltimore. So we need to make our presence in the suburbs because they don't see us. They don't really hear us. They don't see our
like he's this reserved young man, and he's shocked when you sit down and have a conversation with him, right? Thank you, Fred. We're going to move. I want to highlight what he just said. Say her name. So if you did not know, we had some fearless black women who shut down the financial district. each one of you to do, since you do have some interest in Black Lives Matter, those that are in your circle that want to talk about them being topless instead of the fact of what they were standing for today and valuing the lives that not only have been killed, but those of us that continue to be devalued on a regular basis. Talk about that. So, I get the great honor to introduce my sis, who's been not just holding it down nationally, but let's just give some love because she was here first, here in San Francisco, and now she's doing it on the national level, right? ALICIA GARZA is an organizer, writer, and yes, freedom dreamer, living and working in Oakland, California. She is the Special Projects Director for the National Domestic Workers Alliance, the nation's leading voice for dignity and fairness for the millions of domestic workers in the United States. All right. Thank you. And let's not forget, most of these workers are women. She is also the co-creator of Black Lives Matter. Trust that. A national organizing project focused on combating anti-Black state-sanctioned violence. ALICIA's work challenges us to celebrate the contributions of Black queer women's work with popular narratives of Black movements and reminds us that the Black radical tradition is long, complex, and international. Her activism reflects organizational strategies and visions that connect emerging social movements without diminishing the specificity of the structural violence facing Black lives. Let's welcome my sis.
I can go after this brother here. He was amazing. But I also want to say thank you for having me. It's good to be back in my second home. And I want to talk a little bit about not just who we are, but why, right? And you did an incredible, incredible job of making the connections. Because honestly, Black Lives Matter is not just about police violence.
That's right, that's right.
Not only is it not just a hashtag, not only are we not social media activists, not only do we understand the intersections between police violence, women workers in the economy, poverty, unemployment, poor quality housing, the denial of access to democracy for immigrants, the denial of access to democracy for people who are incarcerated and people who are now formally incarcerated but still can't vote, can't participate, can't get work, okay? Not only do we understand the intersections between Black folks being on the front lines of the consequences of climate change and climate deniers, to be frank, right? We understand that this is not just a moment, but that this is an upsurge in a long tradition of Black folks fighting to be free, and Black folks fighting for the freedom of everybody.
Yes, right. Yes.
Today is the National Day of Action for Black women and girls. There were a group of freedom fighters today who did what I am not brave enough to do.
Okay, yes.
I will be 100% honest with you. I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah. But what I really want to talk about, right, is that this isn't a new phenomenon. All that we're doing is visibilizing what's been going on for a really long time. People just didn't want to talk about it. We didn't have the internet. So it's really about word of mouth. Now, right, we're able to visibilize it in a different way. When we talk about domestic workers, right? The story is no different. For us at NDWA, we organize a multiracial alliance of domestic worker organizing projects and organizations who are fighting to ensure that women who are holding together the tatters of our democracy and our economy are empowered to reshape what a new world can look like in our image. Because if you address the conditions of domestic workers who are largely excluded from labor protections, whose workplace is in someone else's home, often isolated, not with tens or hundreds of other workers, but it's them, one person, right? If you address those conditions, you address some of the fundamental contradictions of this economy. Y'all don't hear me.
Just keep talking.
All right. But also, the reality is we can't be narrow when we think about why are we organizing domestic workers around wages and contracts and benefits and rights, because it's also very much a struggle for dignity. And what dignity looks like, right, is being able to live in a community where you are free from fear. Domestic workers are mothers whose children are being attacked by the police, by ICE agents. That's just real, y'all. When we talk about what is the connection between Black domestic workers and the Black Lives Matter movement, what I would say is, well, the Black domestic workers are at the heart of the movement. Okay. What's also important for us to just know, right, is that domestic work is rooted in the legacy of slavery.
Right.
It's rooted in the legacy of slavery. Black women were forced to work for free to rejuvenate and replicate families of people who had power.
Right.
That means domestic workers, Black women, were made to nurse other people's children
That's right.
and denied the ability to nurse their own.
That's right. That's right.
That means that domestic workers cleaned other people's houses and fed other people's families before they fed their own, before they cleaned their own, if they were even able to do that. Now, that's still the case. Black women, however, are in a different part of the industry now. Black women are in a different part of the industry now. There are still Black women who are cleaning homes. There are still Black women who are nursing and taking care of other people's kids. But mostly, Black domestic workers are now largely concentrated in making sure that the people that we love the most are taken care of, especially in elder care. What does it mean, however, that domestic workers, Black domestic workers, and most domestic workers have to choose between putting food on the table and paying rent in 2015? What does it mean that domestic workers are not only forced to make those choices, but worried about the condition of their children as they're working for someone else in someone else's home? NDWA took organizers to Ferguson to support the movement. We launched an online campaign called Women for Women in Ferguson to lift up the fact that we have a growing cadre of women who are missing their children. Leslie McFadden celebrated, I don't know if she was celebrating, her child would have turned 19 yesterday if he was not gunned down just feet from her home. We look at Sabrina Fulton, who is missing her child, Trayvon Martin. And then, as my brother said, what about the families of people like Maya Hall, who was murdered just weeks before Freddie Gray in Baltimore? That was a Black transgendered woman. What about Pearl Underwood, 92 years old, murdered in Atlanta, Georgia? What about Ayanna Stanley Jones, 7 years old, when she was killed in a botched police raid in Detroit, Michigan? What about Renisha McBride, who was murdered while asking for help? Now the question of, if Black Lives Matter, what would be different about our world? What would be different about our movements? Well, first and foremost, we would do what we needed to do to elevate and cultivate the leadership of those at the margins and bring those folks to the center. That is fundamentally what this movement is about, and you see it. We don't just have to talk about it, you see it, right? The other thing that we would do is take strong stances, like the Alameda County Labor Council did. Come on. All right. When they revoked an award that was slated to be given to District Attorney Nancy O'Malley.
Yeah. All right.
That act in and of itself needs a standing ovation.
Yeah. All right.
Because real talk, let me tell you, that was not easy. And you know who that was? That was folks inside who said, oh, no, hell no. We're going to give an award to a woman who's choosing to prosecute 14 brave people who locked themselves to a BART train. It was not fun, y'all. Trust me. To demand that there be an end to the war on Black people. Yet, so many others, we have to fight to get them to be prosecuted. We have to fight. If Black lives mattered, the labor movement would be transformed in the sense of fighting to improve conditions for Black workers.
Yes, yes.
Not just in our workplaces, but in our communities.
Yes, yes.
When we look at a place like San Francisco, and I'm sorry, I'm going to take an extra minute because that's what it is. When we look at a place like San Francisco, where we now have less than 4%
Yes.
Black people, it means we have to change our position.
Right.
It means that we need to go to Black communities, not just Black leaders,
Yes.
but we need to go to Black communities and say, tell us what to do.
Yes. Yes.
Because y'all about to be gone.
Okay.
How can we support you? Not, let me tell you what y'all gonna do. How can we support you? Some of that work is happening, y'all. If Black Lives Mattered to the labor movement, we would be conscious that our leadership reflect our base.
All right.
Now, in closing, for real this time.
It's a good thing you got to hook up as the facilitator,
Yeah,
the moderator.
I know, and I see y'all wearing your Black Lives Matter gear. In closing, it was Black women who brought us the idea that our identities are complex and need to be nurtured in their fullest. Intersectionality is not a new idea, y'all. We didn't come up with that. I wish I could take credit for it. It was Black women who led the coalition to win the first domestic worker Bill of Rights in this country. It was Black women who led the effort to win one of the most comprehensive domestic worker Bill of Rights in the country, that includes pregnancy leave, that includes the right to be evaluated and to evaluate your employer. That's bomb. So that's why we need to cultivate Black leadership as a movement. That is why, if we're going to build a healthy, multiracial democracy, we have to cultivate the ability of Black workers and Black people to lead, to thrive, to vision, to shape what it is that we want to see coming forward. Because real talk, and we say this a lot, when Black folks get free, everybody gets free.
Okay.
So in closing, I would ask you, what would your life look like, whether you're Black or not, if Black lives matter? Thank you.
y'all know I'm not really biased to my sister. Y'all know she's brilliant on your own, right? We are going to transition. Before Rima steps out, I just wanted to give her some love because she's one, Rima, because she's also one of another Black Friday 14.
Hey!
And then I also just want to give some special love because not that I don't like adults, but I like young people more. And so these young people that are sneaking out. I got some young people over there. Y'all can stand. You can stand. Okay. Sorry, they with me. Dr. Britton. We are going to actually shift our format because we're so excited that there's so many of you. And so we're not going to do breakouts. And instead, I'm going to actually ask folks to turn to your partner, the person sitting next to you. And come on, actually, I'm going to need some help. We're going to answer and share 3 questions. The first one being, how can we support Black workers at the workplace? The second one being, what kind of fights can we take on that will help advance Black workers? And the last one being, how can we support Black leadership? Because you know my sis just talked about it, right? How can we support Black leadership at the workplace and in our union? So, thank you.
Well, my name is Christina Griffin. My mom, she's a domestic worker. She's in United Domestic Workers of America. She's an organizer now, and I was really glad to hear the sister talk about, you know, the work that they do. You know, these women in the houses, some of them have been to college before. Some of them have had, you know, extraordinary lives as revolutionaries, and not taking away anything from that, but they're at home now because their mama got sick, because their dad is sick, or the baby that they have has a disability and needs their care. So I was so glad to hear that, you know, that was being brought into this movement, because it's like Black people in this country, it is intertwined. A lot of these sisters, especially in San Diego, make about $10.70 an hour. My mom, she does hair on the side, and she also takes care of her senior citizen clients. And my mom is piecing this stuff together. The county will look at a woman and look at a person and be like, you deserve this amount of hours for care. And my mom is going above and beyond that to make sure that this person is washed, has groceries, and that they're advocated for properly during their doctor's visits. So like I work for Unite Here now. Right. So like I got into that because my GM at Hyatt Regency Mission-Based Spa and Marina, when I graduated from Howard, I needed a job, and I lucked up and I got a PBX position full time. And I worked there for 2 years at a 2.5-hour bus commute. And I asked him for a promotion, and he said he wouldn't because I changed my hairstyles too much. He said I talked like I was in the ghetto, and I needed to separate myself from my friends and family. And the only people that helped me, like I went to the Black HR director and everything, but the only people who helped me was my union, Unite Here. I cried with the sister over the phone because she was like, this job was my life. She said, what you want me to do? And I love the union for that. She was over the phone. What you want me to do? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I want him to stop treating me like this. And she said, you got it. I was like, and I got to work, and he had been transferred to the La Jolla Hyatt. So if you ever in San Diego, California, and you want to go turn up by UCSD, you tell Mos and Kaligi, Christina said hey. That was brought up because the labor movements that exist now, that is the really big things that are fighting and trying to protect a lot of black workers, and I was so appreciative of that.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to congratulate you on getting this together in the panel, and I really like the elevation of the conversation, you know, because it is about living well, having a vacation, having expendable money, so you can spend it on our films and products. So it's a good thing that you have elevated the conversation. I'm Jacques Talafero. I own a company called Hits Digital Media, but I'm going to go to the third question first, because I'm also the communications chair for the NAACP here in San Francisco. How many people are members of the NAACP? It is a member-driven organization. So if you don't particularly care that the NAACP is not really rolling as fast as you want, then it's on you to become a member and vote the way you want to see the NAACP proceed. That's what I was going to say about that, about Black leadership. The other thing is about, it was jobs, right? Jesse Jackson was just in town a little bit ago talking about the whole inclusion of technology. What I thought about the conference is this one thing is very brilliant that they're doing, is they're putting technology hubs in churches. And right now, the San Francisco Black Film Festival, here in San Francisco, of course, is doing programming. And one of the films that we're going to have is out of Oakland, called Oakland Coleman. I don't know if you know this film or not. Okay, I thought you would be familiar with it. So they're taking these young kids out of the streets of Oakland, basically, and they're teaching them coding. And these kids are absolutely, totally brilliant at it. I mean, brilliant at it. So I would like to see us combine our resources in what Jesse Jackson is doing with the churches, what we're doing with the NAACP, which is uniting all the branches, and making a hub that we don't have to wait for the VC money from other people. Because I've been covering this for, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so, saw Google, Facebook, before people even knew what broadband was. It's not so much that they're so bright, it's that they have money, they just throw stuff against the wall until something sticks, really. That's basically it. And when it sticks big. So I would love to see that happen, in these pools of energy, in these, create our own VC money, basically.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? There we go.
All right. Hello, my name is James Morgan. I'm actually from Atlantic City, New Jersey. I'm out here with the boycott team. I'm a member of Unite here, Local 54 in Atlantic City. I've been a waiter for, since I was 18, coming up on 20 years now. I'll be like 37, 18, 19 years. Been a kind of an unconscious union member for most of those years. It's only recently that I've been active with the union. I'm a shop steward now. I represent my coworkers. And in response to these questions, I had to think hard about that. I work with a lot of Spanish people, a lot of other white people, very few black people. But I had a young man that I worked with recently, and I felt I did a disservice to him in my position as a shop steward. And I'm looking back at it now from this conversation, I feel I did an even more greater disservice. There's a young man, who's a food runner there, and of all the food runners, the chef chose him to be picking on and yelling about when things weren't going right or they weren't doing their job and whatnot. Now maybe he was a little louder than the most, maybe he was a little bit more brash. You know, I mean, my opinion is, hey, maybe he was. Maybe that's why he was getting picked on. I don't know. So he ended up getting a vice president or something was down there, saw something, I don't know what the exact situation was, and he ends up getting written up. And he's hot, he's pissed. And nobody comes and grabs me or any other shop steward. So he gets his damn write-up, and he doesn't have any damn representation. So I'm pissed at them. I'm like, hey, why didn't you grab me? Yeah, he's got it assertive. Why aren't you telling me? Why aren't you telling me about this? But then I get him to the side, and I sit him down. I'm like, listen, man, at the end of this, no matter what happens from this, you got to know your rights. You got to know your rights because you don't have rights if you don't know them. I mean, it takes more than that to get rights. You sure as hell got to know them first. So I told him his rights, and he was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of done with this place. I'm pissed. Screw this place. I'm out of here anyway." And I said, "Okay. He's his own person. He make his own decisions." Now, why was I wrong there? I was wrong because he was angry, and he had every right to be angry. He had every right to be loud. He had every right to be pissed off because they were picking on him and nobody else. And they were doing it because he was black. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it because I think of myself as an enlightened person who doesn't see skin color. Everybody's the same. We're all alike. But I do a disservice to him because I didn't see him for a black man, and I didn't see him for the context that he was going through in his life and how he was being treated. And you wanted to know how I was enlightened today, and that's how I was enlightened. And seeing everybody as the same ain't right. You got to see people for who they are.
All right. That was great. That was great. I want to give you love for that. Come on.
Hello, my name's Matthew Scott. I'm a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 6 here in San Francisco. I just wanted to touch on a couple things really quick. One was, in my own experience, I'm a third-generation member of my local. When I was born, there were no black members of my local. When I heard the N-word for the first time was at my Union Hall parking lot when I was a kid. Because my dad took me there was a meeting or something, and there was a fight going on about affirmative action and hiring in the city. That gives you a little bit of a sense of the union that I joined into in 1998, which at that time was still predominantly a white male union, but things over 20-something years had started to change. My union in the last couple of years has passed motions in support of the black South African mine workers who were gunned down during their strike in South Africa. That is a very different place than the one I went to when I was a kid. I'm not saying things are that drastically changed, but things have changed, and it took a fight to get there. I've been active as a revolutionary socialist since I was 16 years old, and I came into my union as a revolutionary socialist. And the thing that jumped out at me in this conversation is it's so beautiful to hear about the connections between all of the struggles, about a recognition of the history of the black oppression today within slavery, because this is the hard reality that we have to look at. But one step that I want to go a little bit further is there will never be black freedom under American capitalism.
That's right.
And I would like to hear the speaker's ideas on that. We heard it mentioned, a vibrant, multiracial democracy. But if you don't talk about democracy for who, we live under a democracy for the wealthy elites. And when we talked about what kind of campaigns and fights, there's so many amazing things that people are doing out there, because there are so many horrific things that are going on in this country and internationally. The poverty, the racism, the killing of our brothers and sisters should outrage us and should spur us to action. But the power to actually take on the racist rulers of this country and bring an end to this misery lies centrally in the integrated working class, because they have the power to bring production to a halt. And the political barrier to that power being mobilized is the existing leadership of the union's ties to the Democrats and Republicans. That's the context that I would like to hear the speakers address what we're facing, because I'm a supporter of Workers' Vanguard and the Spartacist League. I am not a member, I do not speak for the party, but that is the party that I have put my fight with all these years. And I really see in our history, which is so long, so much effort, so much solidarity, so much willingness to sacrifice lost at the mantle of worship to the democratic system of American imperialism. We need a revolutionary workers' party that can weld together the struggle of the oppressed behind the power of the integrated labor movement. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Let's clap back.
I'm here for. My name is Mike Walpole, and I'm a member of United here since February 23rd, 1981, 34 years ago. And I've seen a lot of things in these hotels where you don't really see that many black people working at all, or even any black people working, period. And that tells you there's something wrong with these big hotel corporations right here in San Francisco. And another place where I noticed this is a fact. It's right down here, the Moscone Convention Center, where I work, where this applies to the cooks, where they only got one black cook there that I've seen there and everything. That tells you there's something wrong. The whole system is, I mean, what that tells you these places are racist, where they're very fussy on who they want, and that's not how you do it. And I heard a lot of stereotypes from different people saying that why places don't want to hire black people because they're lazy, they're uneducated, they don't want to and want to fight and everything and steal. That's not true. I've seen a lot of black people in the course of my life. They're real hard workers. And they work harder than some people of my own race. And I'm a white person. I'm saying it, you know, because it's a true fact. I've seen it. And I've seen where a lot of black people have gone away for people like myself, that are white, or somebody in another race, or their own race. A lot of times won't even want to help you, and that says a lot right there. Because I tell you, it's wrong the way black people are being treated as far as employment. Because I've been living here in San Francisco all my life. Native born in San Francisco, and I've seen a lot of things and aren't good when it comes to employment. And I feel this way: the only way that real power is through employment and having power at the job site to fight these bosses when they're acting out these racist stereotype attitudes and everything. You got to be able to stand up to your boss and say, we're not going to take this anymore.
That's right. This will be our last, and I'm going to open up to questions.
Okay, how everybody doing this evening?
Good.
I'm Local 2 member, been a member of this union since, well, actually I joined Local 14. Local 2 decided they want to eat up Local 14. So I got transferred over from housekeeping to banquets. Because I was in housekeeping, doormans, and stuff like that to a different crowd. So this happened like in, I don't know, it happened about 10 years ago. 14, eat up Local 2. My case promised, look John, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to put you on the proper list that you need to be on. Here it is, 1999, I still ain't been placed in no snowy glips. I asked my cases. I've been doing this since 1999. Why am I being placed on snowy glips? Why I can make more money I can make? Sure, you saved my life. He did that. Local 2 saved my life, no doubt about it. Because I'll be in prison with the rest of the guys out there. They saved my life. Biggest mistake I ever did was join this union. And I ain't never been broke ever since. I had enough money to maintain my life, keep my life to the standard, and stay away from the street life. He did that. But my biggest question to him, I don't even want the big jobs. Because actually, I'm African American. I'm making $27 an hour out of this union. $27 an hour. I can do $27 an hour. call myself a success. Actually, I call myself a success. But this union is holding me back. And not only me, a lot of African Americans, they holding them back. I ain't got a representative. If I need a shop steward right today, I couldn't go one right now. My president come here right now, I want to use my new president. I voted for this man.
President? Well, no, he's not talking right now because I'm going to open up questions. But now y'all know who the president is. Y'all know who the president is. In particular, what Steve and John just talked to us about was we got some work to do here in San Francisco.
That's right.
That's the bottom line.
That's right.
I don't know if you guys heard what Steve said. He was like, we need to stand up, fight back. We got to stand up, fight back. All right.
Stand up and fight back.
See? So we're going to open it up to some questions. But before we do, actually, I want our panel to jump in this because I don't know if y'all knew, but I was feeling what my brother was talking about with getting rid of capitalism. And, I'm going to take the moderator and say we're going to start off with that line up. And so we can get some feedback from our panelists around that, and I swear we're going to do some questions.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
I hope everyone leaves here. Stand up. Stand up. Fight back. Stand up.
Right, stand up, fight back.
I hope that everyone leaves here understanding that at the end of the day, what we're about is building power. Too oftentimes, they want us to think the problem is a lack of education or training, and the problem is one of power. And so the first thing you got to ask yourself is, how do you build power? And I think personally it starts with the idea of reaching out and touching others and building those relationships. And then based on those relationships, build an organization that can be durable to change the world. So I would ask you to think about that idea. How do you build power? It's not a speech, not a stance, not a pose, it's hard work. Second thing. One way that racism has hurt our society is we've talked about a racial problem oftentimes suffer from a political economy problem. In other words, we untie issues of race and the economy, and that doesn't capture our realities. And so what it means, for instance, a lot of different examples, by the way, is that in the jobs arena, we see a black job crisis, but some people say the solution is to get black folk in the mainstream of the economy. You hear about trying to integrate tech, for instance. The problem for most workers, the economy is not working right. And so it's very important in our analysis of race in America to see the really important interconnections of race and political economy. In my view, is that when we look at most black workers, they will not be served well by a strategy trying to mainstream folk given our current labor market. The last thing, we had a really powerful convening last November around black worker centers. And we started off with people looking at black freedom dreams, which way of trying to elevate the conversation. It was fascinating how America does certain dreaming. You know, we slowly going to talk about Beard Rushton and kind of the hidden behind the scene role he played in many things. And we've talked about him being a gay man, how that was a barrier for his work in the civil rights movement. What we don't say he's a socialist. And so it's very important. Very important that we talk about building power in the context of that relationship, in the context of building organizations. We can have space in that process to dream and dream of new worlds, and then build the power to affect that new world. What it may be, we don't know. How we get there, let's have a conversation. But we got to have a way of having those dreams and put them into practice. My thoughts.
Okay.
say
Yeah, I'll
something.
give just a little bit. So I wanted to ask everybody in here, do they know why this is on the front cover of Time magazine? And I'll give you my opinion why I believe that this is on the front cover of Time magazine. For one, black people as a whole did not say that we wanted to be targeted. We did not want to be racially profiled. We do not want to be police brutality against us. We do not want to have uneducated systems that don't support us. We don't want to be put into revolving situations where we're always being incarcerated, where laws are designed to incarcerate us. So we didn't pick this. Black people didn't say, hey, today I want to be oppressed. I want to be treated this kind of way. And the reason why this is on here is only because of all of us collectively are in a room together that say one injury to one is an injury to all. One nationality can't stop this. Us as black people can't say enough, this has to stop. It's going to take all of these nationalities that care to say that this has to stop. And we have to stand in front of people that can make this stop. So we have to hold the people that are elected officials accountable for these actions. We have to be in those kind of directions. And I wanted to say another thing. How many elected president, how many candidates that are going to be running for presidency right now are going to ride on the back of Black Lives Matter? I don't think none of them will. But at the same time, we have to do that. We have to be more cognizant of this. And we have to put people in positions that care about this situation, because we're the ones that's in the situation. But like I said before, it takes all generations of nationalities to make this change happen.
I seen a hand somewhere over here.
What I'm going to say is obvious, and that's that over the last maybe 5 years, the real aspect of racism against workers has been the attack against public workers that are largely black and Latin. And the two obvious examples are the BART workers and the Muni drivers. I mean, it was a hysterical reaction against that. And unfortunately, there was not a big fight back against that. And part of that, frankly, had to do with the fact that some of the unions undermined that, particularly management unions. And I think we really need to have a huge united fight against the attack on black workers, public workers in San Francisco. I mean, this is nothing profound.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Felicia Jones, and first and foremost, I'm a black woman who is fighting against injustices against my people. That's number one. Number two, I'm a worker in San Francisco with the City and County of San Francisco. Number three, I am the chairperson of Wealth and Disparities in the black community with SEIU 1021 under the leadership of DERRICK. And the thing of it is, for me, is this is what I want to know, because we've been working with Black Lives Matter since last year. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is that I've been an organizer for over 30 years, right? And organizing all kinds of people. The Hispanics, black, Tongans, Samoans, you know, and all of that, down from San Mateo County, East Palo Alto, Oakland, and San Francisco. And what I would like to say is, and what I'm seeing in Black Lives Matter and organizing and mobilizing, is that we are operating in silos. Everybody wants to do their own thing. First, I want to give a shout out to Khan and all of his people who helped put this on, because this is fabulous. That you have to know if you're in this fight. San Francisco is not taking us seriously.
That's right.
And the reason why they're not taking us seriously is because we're operating in silos. And so what we need to do, and what I'm going to recommend to our gracious leader, is that SEIU takes the lead on inviting the leaders who are in this movement to the table along with the community, so that we can strategize strategize and mobilize on the masses. We cannot, they're not going to pay attention to us with 200 people here or 400 people there. I mean, week before last, the Hispanic community mission, they brought over 800 people and they shut down City Hall. Along with Rima and my sister here, we also shut down City Hall, you know, with 300 people. But the thing of it is, what I would like to see, because we need to drop the egos. We need to drop the ego. As we move into this work, keep your ego out there. Because if it really is about fighting justice, about fighting injustices, it's not about me. It's bigger than Felicia. It's bigger than you. And so what we can do, we can organize. And we have to do that because San Francisco is a place where they ignore. And when you ignore someone, you say you're not important. And so 800 marched on City Hall. What was done? Absolutely nothing. They're still ignoring. And so as we begin, I really would like to see us come to the table and strategize together, all egos at the door, because it is about fighting the injustices of black and brown people here in San Francisco. And I'm going to tell you, black folks ain't getting no jobs. San Francisco has about 3% unemployment, 5% unemployment with whites, 6% unemployment with Latinos, and over 19% with black folks.
That ain't right.
And so we need to come together, and I would love to work with everybody here at this table to begin to organize. I see some organizers out there. I see other people in leadership positions. We have to come together and begin to strategize. Thank you very much.
I'm going to let you guys respond if you don't mind.
So hi everybody, my name is Ramses. I'm also SEIU Country 1. I'm going to speak. I want to share and actually talk a little bit about being a worker in the nonprofits here in San Francisco, specifically here in the Tenderloin, where I personally got started with the whole idea of solidarity at the workplace. Right? Like I was in 2 nonprofits where we organized, and one of the 3 main reasons we organized was wages, job security, and straight up racism. Right? This is how workers felt there, right? Not just the black workers, but other workers of color felt that way. And we didn't feel like it was your daily, somebody said the wrong word, that's racist, and we have to do the things that we have to endure on a daily basis, but rather very systemic practices in a place that's an employment center for folks, right? And I'm super proud to see not just folks from SEIU Country 1 here today, my sisters and brothers, some of them from the East Bay who came out here today, but also folks from the neighborhood. I've seen some faces from folks from the neighborhood here and workers in the nonprofits. But it's so super great to see you at an event like this, because I think we need to keep that up. And I just want to put the question out to folks, right? We formed a union in my workplace. That's how we created a big shield of defense to fight back, right? And to assert ourselves and to actually look out for each other and actually put into practice an injury to one is injury to all. Right? But what does it look like in some places where you don't have a union, other nonprofits, other workplaces, right? What does it look like when you know that there's a black worker or a woman being paid $2 less an hour for the same job you do, right? And that's in your conscience and you're well aware that's what's happening, but you're letting your employer get away with that, right? So what are things, ask yourself that you can be doing to organize to fight back on those, on those fronts as well?
Thank you.
My name's Alex. I'm a member of United Educators of San Francisco. I work as an instructional assistant at Mission High School. I got a question, and it's about the political establishment here in this city. I really appreciate Sister Comrade Felicia from SEIU talking about the situation here. Also, Alicia talking about the population of San Francisco, black folks being pushed out of this city. Hillary Clinton, who already has $1 billion business,
Come on, say it.
trying to make her the president. She came to the Bay Area, right? And she met with Mayor Ed Lee, and she said that the city of San Francisco is a model for cities around the country. Right? And this is, some of us know this, right? But this is a city, we got a liberal reputation that there was this text message scandal in the police department, right? So we talk about institutional racism in the police department. There's also an active white supremacist network within the police department in San Francisco, right? This is a city, so the population of African Americans is less than 4%, right? Half the jail population in San Francisco is African American. And those are not people from outside of the city, those are San Franciscans. And they're making them fight for food, right? That was in the news too, right? So my question is, how are we challenging this hypocrisy in this city, right? The idea that San Francisco is a model for the nation. There's going to be a conference of U.S. mayors that's happening in the city, late June 19th, 22nd, something like that?
That's right.
All right, okay. And you know who the incoming president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors is? Stephanie Rawlings Blake, the mayor of Baltimore, right? So this is the person that called the freedom fighters thugs, right? So my question is can we do something about this, right? Can we let the country and the world know in June that this is not a model, right? That San Francisco is a hypocrisy, that there is racism all around the country, even in, liberal San Francisco, and that we want to show solidarity with Baltimore, we want to fight back. So should we see that as a real target for our movement?
Yes.
I want to hear something from the panelists.
I have flyers here. I just want to call on this gentleman.
Ma'am, can you just hold on 1 second? Because I have you can pass out the flyers, because I have other folks that are waiting in the queue, but I want to hear from the panel because we're running short on time. Panel?
Y'all just put it down, though. All right, so, yes, we see you there. I want to touch on this question, though, about building power, because I can't agree more with I could not agree more with what Stephen said. And I think there's some questions that we as a labor movement are facing when it comes to this question of power. Now, I'm going to tell the truth. I actually agree that we're a little bit too chummy. We're a little bit too chummy with the corporate leadership of the Democratic Party. And the reality is we're trying to win things for everyday people. And sometimes that's posed as a tension, right? And I've always heard it talked about as strategy. Well, this is strategy. We got to compromise here so that we can ultimately get this. But the problem with that is that we've gotten less clear about what is this thing that we're trying to get. So I want to challenge us to be thinking about, what does independent political power look like? And what's the labor movement's role in helping to build that? We're not trying to build a system for corporations to thrive. That's not our job, right? We have to negotiate with corporations to make sure that workers get the best that they can get, but that's not the end point. So I would love for us to be continuing to have these conversations that go beyond how do we just make possible what's right in front of us, to how do we make the impossible possible, which is how we get to that path of socialism, right? Which is how we get to this question of how do we change the political economy, right, to reflect and to be controlled and driven and shaped by the people who drive it, right? And in there's a question about choices. There's a question about choices. So, when we talk about San Francisco being hypocritical, sometimes we allow that to happen. We fight some stuff, other stuff we go, all right, not this time, right? What is the list of demands for our mayor? And then what kind of organizing are we doing across silos? And Lord, I wish you would say this 12 times, without ego. Right? Without ego. But also, how are we cultivating the sustainability of this movement? That's a big question. That's right. One of the things that we're grappling with right now, I have to be honest, is there's a gap in leadership.
Yes.
There's a gap in leadership. So we keep hearing, well, where's the leader? Where's the leader? And they're looking at us, right? But they're looking for the man. Who speaks really well. And we say, well, the leaders are all around us.
Right, it's all of us.
Right? How do we cultivate that? How do we cultivate that so that we are building new leaders who can not just talk about wages and contracts and benefits, but can also really throw down around questions of education. Throw down around all these other questions, right? Last thing I want to talk about, because I had a really important conversation with my sister Maddie. Are you still here? Okay. This question of conditions in our community, and why are we not talking about crime, interpersonal crime, intercommunal crime, black on brown, whatever, right? I want to challenge us on this question. And my sister did a really good job of saying, violence is a public health epidemic. It's a result of the bleeding of services and supports out of our communities. So how can we have that conversation in a way that doesn't further criminalize our folks? How can we have that conversation in a way that doesn't further blame our folks for conditions we didn't create? How do we empower our folks to be able to move alternatives that folks are already doing, quite frankly, but we need to do those things at scale, right? How do we get the resources, and how do we fight for the resources to make sure that there's community control over those services so that they're not yanked back and forth based on political agendas that are not ours? Yeah? Woo.
First off, like Alicia said, everybody's comments were amazing. But right there, it just shows you're a leader. Just because we're on this side, don't mean you can't be on the side. It doesn't matter what side we're on, we're all together.
That's right.
So, the number one thing my mom told me was, no. She used to say no to everything. I was like, Mom, why you always gotta say no? Because she said sometimes you gotta be able to say no. That's our issue. We don't say no anymore. We talk about these corporations. Capitalists, we talk about. We're the ones that give the money. And I'm gonna be real, black folks. We spend trillions of dollars. We the first ones. Talk about, oh, they're racist, but they still buying Tommy. Like, we have to be able to say no. We have to be able to come together. If McDonald's is the issue, then I need to be able to go to my sister and say, hey, I got some beans, you got some rice, we about to make some red beans and rice and enjoy our Another thing is, like Alicia said, we're all leaders. But our ego is like, we only want to be leaders in one thing. That coach basketball. And I always tell the kids on the bench, they be like, why are you so hard on us? Because I'm saying anybody has to play this position. Somebody gets fouled out, somebody has to come in, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to take on somebody else's task if they're not showing up, or they can't show up. So you can't have your ego just worried about your issue. You have to be worried about other issues, other injustices. Because once we solve that one, it's a domino effect. It comes back around. Another thing, you said it's a problem in unions sometimes. It's a problem in our Democratic Party. The problem is we don't ask questions and we don't challenge people. Many times we don't want to challenge the people that we believe are on our side. We're like, hey, they did 25% of stuff right. That's better than the last person. No, they ain't did it right. Since they haven't done it right, ask questions, be critical. I'm not sure if you guys know how a diamond comes out. It's with tension. It's with tension. Tension builds strength. I'm not sure if y'all been to the gym. Once you work out, you tired, you wore out, so you need to know that it's going to hurt. We're going to be in pain sometimes. But at the end of the day, once you build that strength, once you're able to hold yourself up and hold your brother and sister up, that's what we need to have. But we can't just have it in this building because we love to have it here. We love to have it when you're going to have it. We love to set the dates. No, it's every day. 365 days. 24 hours. So remember that. Please remember that. Like, come together. not matter who you are, how old you are, what's your gender, your sexual orientation. Just know that you gotta fight injustice 24/7, y'all.
Hey, right. That's right.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk a little bit about how our structure actually works through SEIU Local 1021. We have plenty of educational platforms. We have our organizing Vice President Ramsey here. We have our Vice President of Politics that's over here. We have Steve, who's actually one of our retired. Well, one of our retirees that does so much work still. Yeah, he does so much work in our local that we actually depend on a retiree. So that's how much that we actually utilizes our services to expand. SEJ is actually the umbrella to all of our other committees, so we actually have quite a few committees. We have a disability committee, we have the Asian and Islander Pacific committee, we have Native Americans committee, we have Peace and Solidarity, we have Lavender, who actually fight for LGBT rights in the workplaces and everything, and AFLAM. Is actually, oh, and I'm sorry, in the Latino committee that actually fights also for the immigration rights and everything. And that's all under the umbrella of SEJ. So we have so many different committees that actually goes out and works in the communities to actually resolve some of these issues that are out there. And we bring them back and we find solutions and how to make a positive impact and empower our communities. So we have a lot of ways of actually funding that support in the community. So we actually are asking individuals here to start participating with us. Bring some of those issues to us, help you resolve those issues, because we want to be champions in our community. We want to be able to help individuals out in situations that we all are going through and the issues that affect us all. So like I said, whether it's our youth programs that we have, education and trainings in our youth programs, we have AFRAM right now that's working internationally with Black Lives That Matter, because our local internationally supports Black Lives That Matter fundingly and in each and every community regional-wide. So we actually have Jack Bryson, I'm sorry about that, and Kim Moses, who's actually the Vice President of AFRAM, and Jack is the President of AFRAM. So we want you guys to actually connect with these individuals and work in the community. Like we have Felicia also, who works in wealth, peace, and disparity in San Francisco out here and all over the communities too. So we have a lot of community people that are working with this side of our local that reach out to activists and leaders. And we want to find ways to cure this community issues that we go through every day. We want to make sure that we're putting people that are leaders in leadership positions, and we can help them address their issues and make things that be a lot more secure in the communities that they're from. So we develop leaders in the job workplaces, and we also develop leaders outside of the job workplaces. But we can have ways that we can corral a lot of these issues that go on out here. So we're asking that you come to our social and economic justice meetings that we be having every third Thursday of the month. We have a gang of other committees that are involved in a lot of community activist work. So if you are involved and you want to be involved in things, please come get on the platform and let your voice be heard. Speak on issues that affect you so much to where you want to make a difference and make a change in these aspects. And we're looking to have you be a part of what we're trying to do that changes a lot of these problems that we do have in our communities.
All right. Before we close out, if you guys don't mind, if we just get a couple minutes, because he's got some brilliance for us to close us out. Come on, Mr. Pitts.
The Warriors?
Hey! All right. They're playing. They haven't won yet. They're playing.
Focus now. You don't know what they're going to We want to do a commercial for the Black Worker Center. To be some thoughts put out there. If you're interested in build a Black Worker Center, please come see me. That's commercial. Beyond that, what I said before, the issue is how do you build power? So the mayor's folks coming here. My issue, in my view, is not about exposing hypocrisy as building power. It's a different thing. The question is, what tactics do we use to build that power? Maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. But the question is, how do you build the relationships? That's the issue. Not taking a stance, not myself getting out there. It's building relationships, building an organization. That's how you judge what to do. It's how does a certain action you take a certain day build that power? I know what the answer is, but that's the question though. It's not taking a stance. The other thing about building power, I think, this shit is complicated, right? Because in some ways, the city and county is advanced. In terms of the attempt to protect some labor standards, they are a model. They are not in other ways. The one book I read in high school was A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, the worst of times. We gotta exist in that kind of duality and understand that. You always have a duality. Good and bad always coexist. The question is still, given that duality, every day, how do we build power? And that's the question. So I'm glad I'm here. It's been super exciting. I'm glad y'all came out. So thanks for coming out as well. And like I said, every day ask yourself, what I've done today to build power, and do it more the next day, okay?
Round of applause to our panelists. I want to thank each one of you for taking the time to come out. Your patience, your flexibility, your interest, and most importantly, your understanding that Black Lives Matter. This has been a Jobs and Justice Forum connecting economic justice, racial justice, and Black liberation.